Hello everyone, Adam here again. Welcome to my channel. This is a channel where we discuss all things about long COVID, recovery stories, devices that helped, supplements, diets, things like that. So today I'm going to do a video. It's my story part 2. So I have received so much feedback on my first video that I posted to my channel. It was about 4 months ago now, and it's crazy how time flies. I was talking with someone on Reddit who hadn't heard from in a year today, and I look back on our conversation history, and the last message was a year ago in April. This is someone who gave me some suggestions and ideas, and they're doing great. So it's kind of what encouraged me to make this video today. On my first video, I'm just looking at some notes here. We have over 2,000 views, 270 watch hours, 70 comments, and 115 likes. It's incredible, guys. I really thank you for all your support. I never thought my story or my recommendations and things that helped me would reach so many people. And the amount of hours that have been viewed of this video is awesome. It just encourages me that what I'm doing here is helpful for you folks all over the world, and I really hope that you can take something from my second video here. So the first one was quite long. This one probably won't be as long. You can see the difference between the first one. I figured out my lighting and microphone situation here, so it's not as dark. It's easier to see me, and hopefully the audio is better on this video. But yeah, as I said, the inspiration for this video was talking to somebody who was a huge help for me about 12 months ago. So just an update. So the first video was made my first video was made 4 months ago now, and it's crazy how time flies. It might even be 5 months now. It was early in December, just after my second COVID infection. So I was reinfected in December, so it's been about 4 months now since that reinfection. And I did have a dip of my recovery during January and February, so I'm just really starting to get back to my 90-95% feeling now. In November and December I was doing pretty well up until I got that reinfection, but I just have continued to do the things that I suggested in my first video, and I think I've kind of fell out of routine with those things. So when I pieced those back together late February and started doing my daily stuff, I've started to see a lot of improvements. And yeah, today I'm just going to talk about some things that I missed in my first video. So I just kind of got on camera and spoke from the heart about my story and what was going on, and I missed a lot of stuff. So I've taken some notes today in some things that I missed, things that have been part of my recovery, and things that really need to be talked about in long COVID in general. I haven't made a whole lot of videos lately. I have been taking part in a couple studies here in Canada. I've also joined a guideline team that is going to be helping shape some guidelines for the government of Canada on treatment of long COVID. So I'm doing my best there to help out those folks who this hasn't even touched yet, or who are just beginning with this illness. So hopefully my recommendations from a lived patient experience can help shape some guidelines for those folks who are looking to help others. So I've been quite busy with that and work, obviously, and my small family, my young family. So I'm doing my best today to get on here and share some more information with you guys. So I wanted to start with I guess a path that I'm going to try and take with this channel. So thinking over the last couple days, I have received so many different messages on Reddit and Facebook groups that I'm a part of. So that's really why I started the YouTube channel in general, was to share easily digestible content with other folks who had trouble reading like I did at the beginning. And I'm continuing to build videos and make videos that touch on different topics. So there were a couple of people, and they're people because in Reddit there's handles basically, so you don't know who this person is, if they're a man or a woman, etc. So those people were super incremental to my success, and they were super important to my success in my recovery. One person who goes by the name of Tezzy was their username. I have to give a shout out to. They did so much patient-led research in terms of long haul in general, and they were suffering for over a year as well. And they started to experiment with iron stores and also magnesium supplementation. They were looking into Gaba and glutamate imbalances, dopamine imbalances, and these are all things that I have tested out myself as well after reading these comments over a year ago now. And there's another person on Reddit as well named C Money, and this person is like we're long hauling with the same exact illness. His suggestions were incremental as well to help me overcome my depersonalization, my derealization, and my constant fight or flight and panic. And this is what led me to my Ativan realization that it was helpful for me on a daily basis to calm that nervous system down, as well as I was doing my meditation and breathing and all that stuff, but I needed a little bit more, and that suggestion was super helpful. So I'm looking, I know it's probably a long shot, but I'm going to try and get these people on here and start to do some interviews with them. And I'm going to reach out to them and see if that's a possibility. It's a long shot, but hey, who knows? So they have shared their stories on Reddit before, and you can go into the long haul support group on Reddit. Basically, it's COVID long haulers on that app. And you can just search posts that relate to neurological long COVID, and these guys are going to come up, and you're going to see some of the work that they've done. In particular, Tezzy's post was, I don't know, there had to be 30 different links to studies and information about magnesium and dopamine and GABA and glutamate and all sorts of different things. So it has like 7 awards, it has 500 likes, and so many hundreds of comments on there. Super helpful. It's one of the most helpful posts on Reddit for long haul COVID. So that's really where I'm going to try and go. There's a woman named Raelan, and she does interviews with COVID long haulers and people with chronic fatigue syndrome and other post-viral illnesses, and it's super inspirational to me. I've watched all of them, and I only found out about it maybe a couple months ago, and I've started to watch all of her videos with people with post-viral syndrome, and there's a ton of videos that have been popping up from these people that have been on her channel and been interviewed. So, you know, there's a lot more exposure to long haul COVID. People are putting more videos out, more information, which is amazing. Even more so than when I saw 4 months ago when I started this channel. I've seen, 5 new channels come up with people sharing their recovery stories. And I'll link those channels in the description as well so you can take a peek at them. Hopefully, I'm going on Raelan's channel as well, so I have reached out to her and signed up for a date coming later in the year to discuss my my story. And once I have more information about that, I will post a video and a little bit of information to let you guys know when that'll be when we get closer to the date. Another topic I wanted to talk about now that we're getting into the summer months is grounding. So here in Canada, everything's been covered by snow for, I don't know, it feels like an eternity, but probably 6 or 7 months now. And I have just been getting outside and putting my feet on the grass and walking in streams and all sorts of stuff like that. I tried my best in the winter to go out barefoot in the snow, but you can only do that for a little while until people think you're crazy or you get frostbite. So grounding was super important to me in my recovery last summer, and I forgot to cover it in my last post, in my first story post. So we'll talk a little bit about it today. Grounding, there is a lot of information on how it can reduce inflammation in the body. Some people call it pseudoscience, but what does it matter at this point, right? Anything that you can try to help is what you got to do. And I found it helped. It was a combination of getting sunshine on the skin, as well as getting my feet in the grass or sitting in the grass. When I would go to my son's football practices and games, I would be the crazy person sitting in the grass, meditating with my headphones in and watching him play football. You can't care what people think. You got to do what works for you and what's best for you. So I would make sure to get at least 10 to 20 minutes every day outside, whether it was sunny or not. And that doesn't mean walking with shoes on the pavement going for a walk. It means taking your shoes off, getting some contact with the earth. And I won't go too much into it, but, putting that skin to the earth is apparently how you reduce this inflammation. Take it what you will, believe it or not. If you're at this point where you're watching this video and you're looking for help, you'll try anything. And that's where I was, and I'm still there. So I'm doing my grounding every day. Now that we're in the spring, if it's springtime or you have sun all year round, you should be outside all year round trying to do a little bit of grounding. It's definitely important for recovery, and it was a huge help towards my recovery in like October is when I started to get better. So I had been doing grounding for the summer months and even all the way through October into November when I started to feel better. Another topic here, I kind of briefly talked about it, is music. Music, you really got to find some songs that help lift you up. And I know how discouraging long COVID can be. I know what brain inflammation feels like. It gets you down on yourself. It gives you depression. It gives you anxiety. And you might be in the first few months of your long haul and you can't even find a song to put on, or you don't want to hear music. For me, a lot of the first 4 months I was in bed, I was watching nature shows and Planet Earth, and I had to have it super low because I had sound sensitivity, light sensitivity, and my nervous system was on fire. So music, maybe not at the start, but if you're, a quarter of the way there, halfway there, find some inspirational music. What worked for me might not work for you, but, I used rap, I used rock, I used emo music, I used classical music, I used jazz music. It depends on the mood you're in, and it depends on what you need at the time. Jazz and classical for calming yourself down, rap, rock, alternative music for lifting yourself up and motivating yourself to go out and do things. So like in the morning before I went to work, I put on a song that was motivating and kind of got me going when I maybe had woken up and how am I going to get through this day? My brain's inflamed, I have head pressure, and I would put on a song on the way to work. And tapping into music will tap into your happiness. It'll tap into your, what am I looking for here, neurotransmitters. So dopamine for sure. It'll definitely help make you a little bit happier depending on the mood that you're in, and it'll help with your recovery. I had a video on fasting. I did a separate video on this, but I want to reiterate how important fasting is because I didn't talk about it in my first story video. I started seeing success when I started prolonged fasts. Take that in. So 4 months in, 5 months in, last year, I found a group on Facebook, Tom Bunker's group, and you can see more links to his group and information that is much more than I can give you on that video, and in his group you'll find out a ton more. But I started doing intermittent fasting, so eating for 8 hours a day and fasting for 16 hours, and then I bumped that up to 24-hour fasts, bumped that up to 48-hour fasts, and then finally at 72-hour fasts. I felt amazing during these fasts. And then I would crash afterwards. So that's important to note. But when I wasn't eating and my body didn't have to concentrate on digestion, and it gave my body some time to heal. Maybe it gave my body some time to fight the viral persistence, which is probably the most logical theory, I think, for long haul, at least from my version of long haul. But fasting, for sure, I started to see incremental improvements with each fast. So I'd crash for maybe 3 days to 5 days. But after that 5 days was over, I started to see an improvement. I'd say even, almost 5% each time. And I've been lacking in the fasting department lately. Maybe that's why I've been having some flares and symptoms that have flared up a bit. I've been trying a new high protein diet, basically high protein keto, low inflammation diet. So maybe I just need to back off that for a bit and go back to the basics. But yeah, fasting for sure recommended. And check out my fasting video if you want to hear more about what I did and all the long haulers that are using prolonged fasting and intermittent fasting to help their recovery. I'm going to talk here a little bit about dopamine. So again, a Reddit post from Tezzy was discussing dopamine and the depletion of dopamine in the system. Theory is that the virus might have done some damage there and reduced the way reduce the dopamine in your body and the way it's upregulated. So there is supplements that can help with this, and I'll post Tezzy's post, a link to his post here that discusses a lot more than we'll talk about here. But if you can help your dopamine receptors, you're going to probably feel a lot better. So Wellbutrin for me helped me. Wellbutrin acts on dopamine, and it was one of the medications that I had trialed along with fluvoxamine and Ativan for the neurological symptoms that I was going through. Wellbutrin helped me a lot. I took 150 XL, so it was an extended release tablet. I took that daily for probably 6 months, and then I got off of that when I thought that it was appropriate, and I knew that it was time to come off of it. But it definitely helped me through the stages where I had no emotions, where I was down all the time, where I didn't want to get out of bed, where I felt disconnected from my family and friends, where I was having brain fog. So it's definitely a medication to talk to your doctor about and see if it may work for you. Again, this is a point in a video where I'll state very clearly, none of this video is medical advice. I am not a doctor. These are things that I have trialed and that have helped me that I'm discussing in this video. So we talked about fasting. We talked a little bit about dopamine. Another one along the mental health path would be no hunger. So I've had folks reach out and leave comments about this. And this was one of the weirdest symptoms I had. No hunger for probably 5 months, almost 6 months. I didn't need to eat, but I forced myself to eat. So it was hard. I mean, it was one of the most strange symptoms. It was helpful for weight loss at the time for sure, because I did like a 1 meal a day plan or an intermittent fast where I had a little lunch and a little dinner. But again, I didn't need to eat. I had no need to eat. So when I was doing those 3-day fasts, they were easy for me because I had no hunger. So keep that in mind too when you're doing the fasting. They might be harder for you because maybe you do have hunger, normal hunger signals. I didn't. So at my 3-day fast, the only reason I stopped because I was feeling so good was because my blood sugar was super low. So that's why I ended my fast. But other than that, like, I didn't need to. So there was one day, and for no reason at all, I had been bringing my car back from the shop, getting its brakes done. And on my way home, it just got this, I was passing a pizza place and I got this whiff of pizza. And it was like, oh my God, I'm hungry. And it just flipped back on. And it wasn't this instantaneous thing. Like it was almost like, okay, I'm hungry. Like I want to eat again. But it didn't come back like right away. Like, oh my God, I have to eat. Like I'm starving. But it was like this signpost. And I've talked about signposts in my recovery before. This was a signpost. It was like, oh my God, something is fixing itself. There's a new neural pathway or something has reconnected itself in my brain where that smell is related to food, right? So I'm smelling food that I like and I'm hungry. I'm gonna send that hunger signal to him. And that's what I got. And slowly over a few months, my hunger regenerated itself. And it came back to normal. And that signal has finally returned, which is great. So, not a specific recommendation on that, but again, give it time. A lot of these things take time. That didn't come from 5 or 6 months from the initial long COVID setting in. Another one I had, and especially right now, another symptom I had since we're entering seasonal allergy, the seasonal allergy part of the year, I had this weird ear popping, clicking, fullness. So it almost felt like I was going deaf in one ear. And no matter what I did with nasal rinses, Reactin, Flonase, all sorts of different sprays and medication, it seems like I couldn't control these allergies. My whole sinus cavity was inflamed. Again, my whole brain was inflamed. Everything from the neck up felt wrong. So it drove me insane. And I've seen quite a few other long haulers have this issue as well. There's a device called the ear popper, and you get it on Amazon. And it was the only thing that I found that would unclog this ear. And I've seen 2 ENTs. None of them could find a problem. I still have problems with my ears, guys. I still have that tinnitus where the ringing never stops. So 2 of my worst symptoms still are my right hand tremor and the ringing in my ears. So for some reason I can't get those to die down. But anyways, back to the ears. The ears being so full, you just have to keep taking your antihistamines. You have to try and reduce the pollen that you're taking in. So I was sleeping with the windows open last year. I didn't know any of this last year, so I'm going to sleep with those closed this year to try and reduce that load. Again, this comes down to maybe a histamine intolerance issue. But the ear popping, this ear popper, it puts some pressure into your nose. You plug the other side and you swallow. And that's supposed to open up the eustachian tube that is connecting your inner ear and your outer ear. And it worked. It doesn't mean it lasted forever, but it worked. So it did come back a couple times when I was sick. But again, I had this ear popper device, and super helpful for that. So if you are having ear issues, I would recommend this, the ear popper device, as it was super helpful for this. I haven't had anything touch wood since maybe September now. So hoping it doesn't come back with allergy season. But if you are having ear issues, something to consider. I wish there was more information I could give you on the ringing in the ears. I've tried so many different things, massages, acupuncture, different YouTube videos on techniques to try and reduce the sound. Cupping your ears and tapping on the back of your skull is probably the only thing that provides maybe a couple minutes of relief. But for me, hey, if you have any recommendations for the ringing in the ears, please let me know in the comments. I'd be super grateful. One more thing to talk about here is if you have any sort of brain inflammation or you're having mental health issues that maybe you didn't have before, your panic is out of control and you can't handle it. Another comment from the Redditor Tezzy, who had made this post about a year ago, is an imbalance. He looked at an imbalance in the Gaba and glutamate systems, and I don't see a whole lot of people looking at this, and it makes perfect sense. GABA is the calming down neurotransmitter, and glutamate basically is the opposite. It's the excitatory transmitter or the feeling that happens in your body. So there has to be a balance, and we've talked about the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system before. Again, GABA and glutamate's another way for talking about those, I think. Ativan was a big helper for me, you guys know that, and that acts on this GABA glutamate system, and it basically helps upregulate your GABA. And there are other ways as well. You can reduce glutamate's found in a lot of foods. There's glutamate in MSG and some cheeses and things like that. So looking at what's high in glutamate is a good way to reduce it in your body if you stop eating those foods or taking supplements with that in it. But definitely look into that theory for sure. I'll link again that post that discusses that, and you can take it as you will and go from there. But if you're having issues with panic, fight, or flight, look at GABA and glutamate. Definitely. All right. And the final thing that I want to talk about here is relapses. And we all know that relapses are an absolute bitch with long COVID. And this isn't to dismiss folks who don't have relapses and that are constantly sick. Please keep that in mind. But there's a lot of long haulers that go through a period of, I'm feeling a little bit better, and then they crash. And you can say this is post-exertional malaise, or it can just be part of the way this illness works. You know, we do so little for so long that when we get a good day, we want to, walk the dog and play with the kids and, play the guitar, and then the next day we crash. Now, for me, I had windows and waves, I called them, and that's used in the recovery community as well. But windows where life was looking better, and waves where I didn't even know what the hell was going on. But the windows and waves, the windows got longer and the waves got shorter as time went on. And that is leading into the final thing I want to talk about, is time. So time will allow you to have longer windows of recovery, or pseudo recovery, or, a bit of recovery. You have to give your body time. And I'm 15 months in now. I still have days now, like maybe a day. For example, on Saturday, I was having a ton of brain fog. I went out bowling with family, and I felt like I was on a different planet. But the day after, I felt a lot better and back to my 90% self. So there's still these days where I feel these symptoms, and they're very, very intense, but definitely not as intense as they used to be. So they're manageable. And a lot of people around me know what I'm going through, and if they're talking to me and I'm in my own world, don't respond, they know now what's happening. But time will fix this for you. And keep doing all these things that you're doing for yourself. Don't lose hope. That's my biggest thing that I want you guys to remember. Don't lose hope. Try something new every day or every week. Even if you take some of my 20 or 30 recommendations that I've made for myself that have helped, take one of them a week. If you can't handle that, take one of them a month and trial it for yourself. Start easy on yourself. Try something like grounding. Go for a walk with your socks off in your backyard or to the park. You look crazy, but who cares? You feel crazy. So just try it. Put some nice calming music on. Try it. If you don't even want to leave the house, change your diet. Stop eating foods that are inflammatory. Try carnivore. Try keto. Take some magnesium. Anything. Make one little step towards your recovery each day, each week, or each month. Whatever you can handle. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching my story part 2 video. Again, I had made some notes here on things that I had missed. For longer topics, I will be making separate videos, and we will discuss things further. If you have any comments or questions from this video, please leave them in the comments section, and I will get back to you. Wishing you the best health. Take care.